Howdy! I'm Brandon Oldenburg, Chief Creative Officer for Flight School, and this is exciting for me today. I get to sculpt a character from our upcoming animated, wow, I'm not sure what's going on here, but there's like a commercial. Oh, that because we're streaming ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we
so
go.
that's the ad that goes before.
Oh,
Sorry about that. All right, so here's what's going on. Before we get started, I have a few announcements that are important for Flight School and those of you who have already started following us and those maybe that are just starting to tune in for the first time today. Again, my name is Brandon Oldenburg. I'm Chief Creative Officer for Flight School Studios. And we have a blog where you can tune in to everything that we're doing on all of our original content production. And our first project that we started working on is called Manifest 99, and it's a story with some gaming in it that's designed specifically for VR. And yeah, we conceptualized the idea right during the holidays, and jumped right in, and we're getting close to having a beta. I think we're within a few days we'll have a beta version of the experience. And to tell you a little bit more about the story, Manifest 99 is, well, before I do that, I had some more announcements, right? Okay, let's do that. I'm going to read this out loud. So, let's see. We have positions, yes. All right, so we have some job postings for Flight School. One of them is for a designer, straight up like talented, amazing designer artist. Obviously needs to be well versed in creative Adobe Suite, but more importantly has a love for telling stories in new medium, and that's what we do at Flight School. And at the same time, we're also looking for a game designer. So those two positions have just been posted, and we are already starting to get a great amount of submissions, so it's going to be a hard job for us in the coming days to try to narrow it down and start some job interviews. But we're excited to be able to be so fortunate to start to slowly expand our team. Flight School right now is roughly about 25 people, 25 people or so. And so, again, please tune in to all of our various feeds, whether it's Facebook, like our page, Twitch, make sure you tune into that, and more importantly, our blog. So if you go to flightschool.studio, up in the upper right corner, there's a link that takes you directly to our blog, or you can do blog.flightschool.studio. So here we are today. We are sculpting a character we call Crowboy, and now I had to get some work done on him before the stream started, just because I think it would be kind of boring to see me applying a bunch of just raw clay to the wireframe. But just earlier today, we had just a wireframe of our Crowboy that we built out of wire and foil. And here's some photos. I'm going to show you guys some photos of what he looked like, an hour or two ago. Let me see if I can get this to focus. So there he is. And it was basically just this soft bendable wire and some foil. And I'm basing this pose off of a lot of great poses that our animators have been doing in animation for our main character in Manifest 99, Crowboy. So I've got these printouts, screen grabs of our character, some really great ones that kind of give you a sense of his personality. He's kind of hunched over there. He's got his hands in his pockets. He looks somewhat shady. You're not so sure about this dude. John Durbin, I believe, did some of these poses, and Andrew Stofson did some of them as well. But this one's a pretty generic one, but it's given me a sense of like hand and shoulder placement, and where his feet are, size relationship to head, all that sort of stuff, which I started to base this armature on. And then now I am starting to apply the clay. Now, if we don't mind, we can move the camera and I can show you guys this kind of messy little cardboard box, which is our warming box. So I'm in here taking this awesome clay, this monster clay, and warming it up so it's nice and soft and pliable. And then this little light bulb up here is keeping it nice and warm. And then starting to apply it over the foil. to me, you know, it's hard sometimes when you're just working with a wire, so I put some foil and wrapped it around the wire so it's got more of a tooth to it, so the clay will stick to it a little more easily. It's hard when it's just a smooth little round post. So this character is wearing sort of a medium-sized trench coat over a hoodie. So what I like to do is actually think about the clothing before it's sewn together. For example, like the hood, and I'm thinking about how like it would wrap around the head itself. So here's just an experiment. I'm not saying that this is going to be right, but I'm looking at how the hoodie wraps around and over his head. So I'm gonna miss a shot. I think his head's a little bony right now, so I gotta add a little more weight to it. But this is a start. So here we are. Do we have anybody tuning in yet? Is there
we have 9 people watching.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Anybody we know? Or does it say? Or are they all
I can't
funky?
see just yet.
Funky name.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoy the next hour while you watch this thing come together. And you know, I went to art school at Ringling College of Art and Design, and I had a figure sculpting class taught by Mark Anderson. He's an amazing guy. He's so talented, and I learned a lot in that those 3-hour sessions when you're trying to sketch in clay, which, you know, I have a problem and a tendency for trying to be somewhat of a perfectionist too soon, and I learned a lot about how to rough out forms. Not that I'm necessarily good at it, but I did learn that that's something I need to continue to work on, which is to like a lot of the Rodin sketches, they're actually more beautiful than the finished ones. There's just something wonderful about the blobby nature of clay, and when you're just shoving it in there, you've got a sort of a gesture, a vibe for the form. I'm certainly not thinking that I see the crow in the clay just yet, but I am trying to pull something out of it. More importantly, I'm trying to pull the soft clay out of this box so I can work with it. I feel like I may be talking too loud. I have to live up to the expectations set before us by the late Bob Ross. And I also feel like I need better hair for a Twitch stream. And I also, you have Fred Rogers now, right, on Twitch,
yeah.
which is amazing. A lot of really soft-spoken, sensitive men are on Twitch now. I guess it's soothing to talk about, I don't know, Lady Elaine or fluffy clouds.
Happy trees.
Happy trees. Yeah. I wonder what Thomas Kincaid would have done if he had had a Twitch stream. I would have liked to have seen that. Yeah, so he's got this jacket, and I'm going to try to have a vibe here that feels like the wind is blowing. And for some reason, I'm really feeling the pressure now. I'm really feeling the people that are tuned in and wanting to not disappoint.
We have 11 now.
Oh my gosh.
2 more.
This is terrifying.
3 more, 12.
There is a hunch that I want to make sure I get, and I don't think I have enough mass here at the top that gives you his hunchiness. But I'm trying to also make sure that it feels like he's putting his weight on his left foot, and there's a little bit of a bend and lightness to his right leg.
Jack Burton said, "Don't sell yourself short. You're giving off a good Rosk-esque vibe."
Nice. Oh, thanks, Jack. Thanks for the compliment. It's my wish and desire to come off sort of soothing. If you can only feel the warmth of the clay, it's very soothing itself. And you can feel the energy inside the clay. I'm working on the crow boy's crotch area at the moment, which is sort of deep in the shadows under the jacket. I don't want to forget that, obviously. But at the same time, I'm also still trying to cover up on my foil. The fun part in all of this, which I'm going to hold off to until, let's say, the half of the stream, is to get in on his face. Because I used to make puppets, actually, just around the corner at the Dallas Puppet Theater for an internship back in 91, 92. And when I was making marionette heads, my teacher, his name was Pax, he always told me to, I think it's a Japanese rule in Buraku style puppetry sculpting that you do not do the eyes or paint them until the very end, because they are the soul of the puppet, and it's terrifying to see your body being put together when you're missing limbs. So for the puppet's sake, and for Crowboy's sake, I'm not going to put eyes on this guy until I'm done working on his crotch and his pants and his arms. He's missing a limb. He doesn't even really have an arm over here, so I gotta do those first before I do his eyes, which will be it's always the final touch, like Bob Ross. He always waits for
question
the clouds.
From
What's that?
Hey Saratoga. Brandon, your hair looks great. Tell us about your favorite clays for sculpting.
I need more fro.
Close up on that one.
Well, I haven't done enough sculpting in clay to have a favorite. I was told by Nathan in the back over here at Real Effects, the flight school is in this building, and we share it with an amazing company called Real Effects, our sister company. And Real Effects does some incredible animation for entertainment. And Nathan's been with the company since almost the beginning of all the entertainment work. And he and his team back there have an amazing little sculpting area, and I'm borrowing their warming box. And actually, this clay belongs to the studio, and he's called Monster Clay. Is that right? Monster Clay? Yeah, Monster Clay. Yeah, so Monster Clay is pretty awesome. It doesn't have traditionally like this sort of what do you call this, burgundy colored clay. Normally, if it's just in its regular form, it's kind of oily and gross. This one's got just the right amount of consistency between a super sculpey and clay. It feels good, but I don't know the traditional, actual, like, proper lingo for what these things are actually called. I wish I could give you more information, but maybe we can do a little research and post about it later. And then certainly, I think we need to end up sculpting all the characters. And it would be cool to have Nathan on here as a guest too, since he's such an awesome sculptor himself. I'm gonna go back to this hoodie a little bit and add a little more girth to it. I'm also worried that my head itself, like the beak, I need to just map that out for proportion's sake. I'm gonna scrape out some more. It's almost like we need a warming box cam. It's like the incubator. Check in on the clay. Yeah, he's got a pretty big schnoz. I need to add to this. It's a little too much. This reminds me of a scene from a Pink Panther movie where his nose melts. For those of you who remember that film. Peter Sellers. It's one of my favorite movies. Kid. Jason Bear is texting me. I think he's at lunch with some animators right now. They may be watching on their phones, I don't know. So, what's going on out there in the land of Twitch?
No new questions.
All right, please ask questions if you're watching. I need something to talk about. Otherwise, we may want to play some music in here. Is that allowed?
Yes, we've played music before. We want to make sure we get maybe some copyright-free music if we can.
Well, let's go to a 40s channel. Anything that's
like
old.
That.
Yeah. 40s or 20s, because a lot of the content that we've made over the years, and even now, I believe, the references that we've been pulling for Manifest 99, this project, kind of come from sort of an older era. It's not that when you play this game, you're going to feel like you're in, let's say, the 20s or the 40s, but there's certainly a vibe where we have one foot in the past and one in the present. And we always love having references, ingredients that we put into all of our stories. And some of the ingredients for this story comes from Hitchcock, like, let's say, Strangers on a Train, or or other things that are maybe a little more modern, like Miyazaki. There you go. That'll help fill some dead air. Sweet, beautiful. So this character, Crowboy, is somewhat of a vagrant. He's going to be riding on this train in the story, and you're going to be wondering if he's up to no good and why he's there. And there, the interesting thing that we learned when we started developing this idea was that birds, when there's a lot of them in groups, they have really funny names. Like a group of owls is called a parliament. A group of crows are called a murder. So a murder of crows was kind of cool and weird. And we certainly were thinking about Hitchcock's The Birds. We thought about the mechanic of this game. It's pretty fun, actually. We wanted to give a reason for you to jump around and move in VR. And in VR, it can be really kind of nauseating if you're having your character walk, or you're not actually doing it yourself. The character just does it, and you're in their head, and they start moving. So you got to find another way to leap around and move in a space. And we had this idea of, like, what if a bird flew up next to you, and you stared at it, and then all of a sudden the eyes would glow, and you'd snap into their body. And then another would fly up, thus the murder of crows, and you could leap into the next body of the next crow, and so on. And we started to really latch onto that idea. Bo made a quick sort of version of it in the computer, and it worked. And we got really excited about that, because the motion and momentum that you have through the story is rooted in the narrative and in the theme and the style of the story. So it's not just some arbitrary action that you do. It's actually, in a way, connected, which is really always a win if you could figure out a way for your mechanic to be connected to the theme of your creation, of your story. So now I've been really focused on the front, which can be a problem, and I need to make sure I'm always looking at this guy from like all angles when you're working on a three-dimensional object. And I want to make sure I get his hunch, and so I think I need to add a little more to his back so we get that proper curve. That's the best. My father-in-law teaches, well, now he's retired, but he still he tutors wind, specifically brass musicians. When he was in school and when he graduated, and he still plays the French horn, but he taught middle school band in Arkansas, and specifically he taught saxophone to Bill Clinton when he was in junior high. He taught him how to play along with the rest of that class that year, and then followed Bill Clinton's career as he worked his way up to the presidency. But I learned this through obviously just getting to know my high school sweetheart, became my wife. She played trumpet, and I thought that was pretty awesome. I thought that was cool, and I remember watching her play in the high school jazz band. So listening to this music reminds me of that. And so anyway, then I learned a lot about how her parents obviously wanted her to play an instrument as she grew up. That was sort of there really wasn't a choice in the matter. And now we are moving. Here's something a little interesting that maybe you guys may not know is Flight School is a really new company, and it's made up of a whole team that came from Real Effects, the VR team, the interactive team, and the Flight School is also made up of a whole team that came together in Shreveport, Louisiana, at a company called Moonbot. And the creative leadership of that team from Moonbot and all the folks at the Real Effects VR team merged together just recently and formed Flight School. And so while I'm talking to you today, I have family still over at Shreveport, my wife, 2 girls, and they are anxiously waiting for me to get home later today because we have dress rehearsals and we have the dance performance of my oldest tomorrow, which is awesome. But we're also wrapping everything up. School's almost over. Summer is about to begin. Some of the movies we've been waiting to see for a long time are about to come out in theaters. But more importantly, I have to pack up our bags and move the entire family from Shreveport over to Texas, back to Texas, where we were originally from. So, lots of stuff going on. Another thing that I'm also working on kind of in tandem with obviously everything else is I was invited recently to speak at a conference called Motion. So if you go to motion.tv, you can see the lineup of the speakers at this amazing conference. And earlier today, while I was starting to build this armature, I was talking to my fellow creative, Limbert Fabian. He and I have known each other a long time, worked together a long time. And we were riffing on what would be a cool thing to talk about at Motion. And while we were kind of looking at the armature, puppets came up. And then Limbert suggested that I should consider maybe doing a little puppet performance as part of my talk. And we started to riff and then came up with this idea of maybe doing a puppet performance of the characters from Manifest, coming up with an idea that made sense to the talk and how it could all relate. So started to riff on this idea of maybe telling a side story of a character you do not get to know necessarily in the VR experience, and maybe telling you the story about the guy who mans the ticket booth. And so now I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I got to build the puppet of the ticket booth guy, and I've totally decided I'm doing this. So early next month at Motion Conference, I'm going to be doing some puppetry as part of my talk, and I'll be shedding light on a character we don't know necessarily or get to know in the actual VR experience, but the ticket booth guy, which should be fun.
Got a question from
Yes.
Jack Burton again.
What's up, Jack?
So, sculpting question, after getting the form down, do you go back and detail after that?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the biggest sort of, I think, easy trap anybody who's sculpting can fall into, is to start working on detail too soon. It's kind of like, some people can do this though, amazing talented people, some can do this, but for me, if I work on the bottom left corner of a painting and all I focus on is making sure that, let's say, the flowers and the grass looks awesome, and then next thing I know, it's all disproportionate to the sketch that I had of the house, then I've just hyper-focused too much in one area. So I'm trying to continue to look at the form as a whole. And the other thing, which I haven't done enough of, which is to rotate this thing. I need to keep rotating it because it can look good from this angle, but then when I get over here and look at it from that, I'm like, ah! Like right now, his leg is way too skinny at the top. I gotta put some weight on that. Some meat on those bones.
So have you always been interested in sculpting even as a boy, or did you get into it later when you did different kinds of art, or?
I did love to sculpt when I was a kid. I remember probably the first thing I ever sculpted was we had an assignment in 3rd grade, which was to invent a pencil holder. And I took a shoebox, cut it up, made it into this big face, and it had a slot at the top where you drop your pencil. And then it would come down and rest in a hole that was cut open and a big clay tongue coming out, which was curved. It would land and roll into the tongue. And I learned quickly that you can't take clay that hasn't been fired and spray paint it. The paint won't stay on it. But I worked long and hard on that, and there was a competition for best pencil holder. And my best friend, Chad Fisher, he won the award, and it was pretty genius. This is where simplicity always wins out. His pencil holder was merely a paper clip. So you just slide it on the pencil and it keeps from rolling down your desk. And mine was clunky and big, and I spent way too much time and effort on it. And hyper focused on making sure the tongue looked cool, but at the end of the day, it was form over function. And yeah, that was I learned a lot from that.
Chuck Peel said he's watching.
What's up, Chuck? Did you get some rest on your flight? Chuck was just here in the Dallas office. Chuck, by the way, so you guys know, is he's the creative soul of everything at Real Effects and even Flight School and everything that we do within these separate little sister companies that we have. And Chuck and I met back in 1995, and I've been a part of this crazy journey all these years. And Chuck was actually in the Dallas office, which is a rare thing. We used to work with each other every day for 15 years. And then somewhere along the way, kind of in those later years, Chuck moved out to our, what at the time was the new Santa Monica office for Real Effects. And he's still out there, still doing it. But he came into the office the other day. We had a special visitor, and it was just like old times. It was great.
How long does a sculpture like this usually take to just start to finish? Is it just when you think?
It would take longer than an hour.
For sure, yeah.
But I'm trying to give you guys something that looks remotely like the character Crowboy.
I see it.
But within an hour. I could easily get lost in this and spend like 4 days in a row on this, at 6 hours a day on it, between other things. But can't do that.
We have someone new to the chat, Exo Deer. What is it you're sculpting?
This is Crowboy. Crowboy is the main character of our VR project, our first project at Flight School. It's an original content piece. And the project's called Manifest 99. Please tune into our blog. So if you go to flightschool.studio, you can link to our blog there, or you can go to blog.flightschool.studio. That's how it works. I'm learning. And you can also check out our Facebook or Twitter and all that stuff. I sound like a commercial now. I apologize. Yeah, so this is Crowboy, and these are some stills of from just work in progress animation, screen grabs. The background has nothing to do with the story, but it's just our character thrown into an environment real quick. And yeah, he's a shady figure on a train, and the story Manifest takes place on a train. And you get to know some characters on this train, and he is one of them. And you actually end up realizing not only is he the main character, you have actually been playing as him through the experience.
Spoiler alert.
Oh yes, sir. There are spoilers. I actually, if people respond, I'm willing to share more spoilers. I can tell you a little bit more about his character and his motivation and what happens to him and what happens to the people on the train. But I want to be careful with how much to say.
Check on that clay, make sure it's still there.
It's still there. And I broke this one tool, so I'm now just using the wire itself and just scraping the clay out with the wire, which I guess happens. It's a common occurrence. There's some pretty cool tools that you can make for sculpting, and one of the tools that some of the guys like to do is to take wire that's got this sort of ribbing on it, and sometimes you can use, for example, Ernie Ball's custom gauge 42 guitar strings. If you look up close, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a nice tooth and ribbing to it, and it's for the finer detail. I'm not doing that just yet, but it helps smooth out surfaces and get the right kind of vibe. Looks like my Crowboy's leaning a little too much, but I do need to get him to slouch a little bit with the kind of bent neck. He's kind of gaunt, and he has bad posture, so I'm trying to make him have bad posture. I'm also trying to make sure he doesn't look older than he is. I think he's somewhere in his mid to late 20s. And it's also, I keep saying him, he, I think he's kind of, you can put whatever gender you want into this character. But right now we're calling him Crowboy. Oh, you can go to my Spotify. I actually pay for Spotify, and then my Spotify button's down at the bottom.
Okay.
So I'm very excited about Twin Peaks starting in less than 2 days.
Are you a David Lynch fan?
Absolutely.
How could you not with this kind of content, right?
Right. You know, actually, there was a reference. I don't know if you guys ever saw Inland Empire, but there was a bit in the middle of that film with a family of rabbits that lived in an apartment, and it's just humans with these giant rabbit masks on, and it's so wonderfully creepy and cool. It's sort of like Goodnight Moon. It's just wonderful sort of blending of something that feels like from your childhood, but then just the way it was lit and the sound design just totally creeps you out in a fantastic way. And yeah, that whole rabbit segment of that film was an inspiration, I could definitely say, for the look. It's always fun to be able to find ingredients for the gumbo you're making and be able to pull it from all places, whether it's Maurice Sendak or classic children's books, or like Goodnight Moon, for example, to, I guess you could say, more modern references. You know, yeah, it's funny, you know, it's like you see a lot of people wearing horse masks or unicorn masks where it's the human body, like BoJack Horseman, for example, and then they've got the animal head. And certainly, I guess you could say some of that's kind of part of the zeitgeist of the character design. But I think also, personally for me, subconsciously, the characters being sort of human and animal kind of combo comes out of this location that the story is rooted in, which is in the middle of the woods. And yeah, there's a poignant moment in our story that happens. Again, spoiler alert. That happens in the story in the woods. It's actually the scene of the inciting incident. I could say more. I'm so hesitant to give away too much.
And no one said definitively if they're cool with spoilers, so I don't know.
Okay, well, we'll see. Yeah. This is pretty fun. This is pretty awesome to have a dialogue and just kind of make up this dude out of clay while talking to people out in the world.
Your hood's definitely coming along well.
Oh, thanks.
We're about halfway through.
I'm worried that my schnoz is too big now. Let's see. What is our timeline?
We have 27 minutes.
27 minutes to get this guy done? Seriously? That's awesome. I'm up for the challenge. This is definitely going to be more of a sketch than a polish.
Maybe we continue it as well.
Yeah, of course. You know what? I'm going to use this thing because I gotta put something on his shoulder, and also, do you mind grabbing some foil for me? This specific drawing, just sketch that I did, compositionally incorporates a little crow on Crowboy's shoulder. Sorry, other hand, right there. So I want to get a crow on his shoulder, so I need to map that in to get the full balance of the composition of his form. So I'm gonna make a crow body real quick out of foil.
We have another question from Hey Saratoga.
What's up, Sarah?
Is your sculpt just a cool collectible, or does this help the production process?
I think it would be great if we could kill two birds. Oh my gosh, what a horrible pun.
Two crows
Let's
with
kill
one stone.
two crows with one stone here, guys. You set me up, Sarah. You had thought this answer through, I think. That's awesome.
So you're murdering a murder of crows.
Yes. All right, so my daughter Zoe did this the other night. We were eating at one of our favorite Mexican restaurants here in Dallas, Chuy's, and we had some leftover chicken fajita meat, and she took the foil, we wrapped the leftovers in, and she made a little bird out of foil. So that's what I'm doing here with our crow. Now I got to stick him. Sorry, crow boy. This is like a voodoo doll now, but I got to get this in you so it looks like this crow's on your shoulders. Now the pose that I have for this is the bird's head's facing the other way, so I got to do that. So now it's on your shoulder. And there, see, what's kind of fun about this idea of the crow on his shoulder is that he's all-knowing. If he's one with the minds of all the crows in this story, he's watching his back. So, and I wonder what sort of sneaky activity he's up to if he's always looking over his shoulder, and then his little crow dude is looking the other way. I just want to make sure that it's got a fun, strong silhouette. To me, like if there's a sweet spot for your sculpture to be seen from, which there really shouldn't be because it's 3D, but to me, I want to have a strong silhouette, and this would be sort of like the front view that you need to see. So compositionally, I'm thinking about how the balance works between the. You guys can't see that. That's right.
Let's move to the other side.
I'll just lay it down on the ground.
I think if we turn
You
it
can
this
see
way.
here. Just want to have that beak pointing that way and that beak pointing that way. So that's all. I think based on these screen grabs, I don't think I've made his coat long enough, but that's an easy thing to fix. I just need to make sure I get his arms in the right spot. I think probably the weakest part of this right now is making his right arm is going in his pocket. So I'm working on that. So I'll turn around because you're not seeing exactly what I'm working on, so I'll try to
Here, I can
play the camera. Okay, cool.
help you a little bit.
Thank you. So I need to have the bulge where his hand is implied under the cloth. This is his pocket.
Jack Burton has a question.
What's up, Jack?
What else is on the horizon for flight school after this project?
Good question. Well, we have a whole slate of ideas right now, and these ideas are very, gosh, another horrible pun. They're very moldable, and I think that's really important because right now, since we play and dabble in new technology, every day, as of yesterday, there are new things being announced either by Google or Facebook or somebody else when it comes to how you can play around and tell stories either in VR, which is definitely the flavor of the month, or maybe the next decade. But we always have to be listening and paying attention to what's happening in the world. So then our stories, which we're going to tell no matter what, we just need to make sure we pick the right one that goes with the right medium. We want to make sure that it has a meaningful link to the medium and it's not being forced into a medium that maybe it's not appropriate for. So, you know, this story specifically, Manifest 99, was designed by a lot of just sort of stepping back and the team talking about what works in VR, what's exciting about VR, what makes you sick, and what we should maybe try to avoid in VR. And also tonally, like what kind of stories do we feel like we're not hearing or experiencing in that space that feels like there's a void and that maybe we could fill it. So there are a lot of different boxes we're checking when it comes to new content. And so, flight school, half of the time of what we do is doing branded content, branded entertainment, and the other half is doing original content. And right now, there's a lot of interest just from the team to do more arcade-like experiences in the VR, AR space. There's a lot of really fun ideas. And one in particular, we maybe the one that we jump on right after this, as far as original content, is a story about survival, and it's hilarious. So tonally, it's not spooky like Manifest, but nonetheless just as equally entertaining. But it's pretty hilarious what the team is coming up with. And yeah, you play yourself in a predicament in that new thing that we're coming up with, and you try to figure out how to survive long enough for someone to come rescue you. The Crowboy's got 2 different shoe sizes right now, so I gotta work on that a bit. It's amazing how quickly an hour goes by when you're trying to make a fully finished sculpted character. And you haven't sculpted in a while. I just realized that one of my projects in art school was a sculpture. I did these illustrations where I would make the characters and sculpt them, and then I'd take photos of them and then add in additional sort of environments or effects around them. And there was an assignment where I loved Twin Peaks, and that's why I'm so excited. It's coming out in a couple of days, new season 3. But I did Agent Cooper and Laurel Palmer as miniature sculpts, roughly about this same size actually. And I still have my Laurel Palmer, and I think I'm going to post that as soon as I get home later tonight. I'll pull it out and I'll take a photo of it. No one's ever seen it, and it's very small, but it's Laura Palmer from the poster in sculpted form. To get his collar more flared out. This reminds me of like imagery I've seen of Hemingway with the navy peacoat, kind of the wind blowing on the collar. See, I need to pay attention to this hoodie. It doesn't really feel like it has like weight to the fabric, so I need to make sure it sort of feels like it's wrapping around an actual cranium. I need to probably, I got how many minutes left?
About
15.
Yeah.
Alright, I've been holding off on the face. I'm going to start to focus on the face now. Get Crowboy's beak. Be great. Again, I'm having to make sure not to forget to hyper focus on one side. You make sure he's got the right balance for all sides. And then I'm also realizing he still has the crow on his shoulder, which has no clay on him yet.
It'd be like a rare silver crow. The mythic silver crow.
The mythic silver crow.
Oh, another question from Jack.
Okay.
You might have said this already, but do you have any plans for this sculpture when it's finished?
Yes, I would love to finish it off, and I would love to make a cast, a mold, and I think that would be great to do that for all the characters, but at least for the main character. It would be cool to be able to offer it up in stores, in our like an online store, for either winning or making like a limited edition and selling them would be fun. Maybe for those who in social media who do the most sort of support, maybe we'll be rewarded with a Crowboy. Who knows? It'd also be cool to just make a. I think it'd be cool to just have it be like a solid color, like a, you know, not be painted, not necessarily a vinyl toy, but like just like a solid silhouette, like a gunmetal black or something. Yeah, I think I need to finish up his pointy collar here, and then I'll get to his eyes. Yeah, if you don't mind giving me like the 10-minute warning, the 5-minute warning,
You bet.
that'd be great.
What we need to do is get a dunk tank, and if you don't reach it in the hour, it gets.
I get dunked.
You get
Yeah.
whoever the presenter is.
Whoever's sculpting just totally gets dunked. Or people bring out blow dryers and just start melting it.
Oh.
This would make for a great, it's like Iron Chef, but with clay. Remember some anatomy here. All right, I'm going to work on his silver crow, see if I can make him a actual clay crow here.
Fancy camera work today.
Absolutely.
We're also joined with the lovely Katie Wood.
Hi.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah. Limbert said, "Heyo."
What's up, Limbert? We're rounding the corner here, Limbert. Almost done. We got how many minutes we have left? So I have to get this guy looking done.
You are at 13.
Whew. All right, 13 minutes to finish the little crow that goes on Crow Boy's shoulder. And then from there, gotta put some eyes on this guy.
Got a question from Darn Carnies. Do you have any favorite sculptors?
I may be a little biased, but I grew up admiring, and maybe it's why I got into art. I was told at a young age when I went to the Dallas Museum of Art that this one amazing sculpture, which is not on display right now, but I'm sure they'll pull it out and put it back up. It's a gigantic piece. It's a stake with a rope wrapped around it, and it takes up the full main atrium area of the DMA when it's up, but it's by a sculptor named Klaus Oldenburg. Klaus, and I have a thing for scale. I like putting the viewer in a very sort of small, sort of feeling like you're sort of like a Lilliputian looking up, like toy size. I like, if you think about it, it's putting you into a childlike perspective. Because when you play with toys, you're thinking like, okay, you get down low and you hold them like this. And to me, it just makes you feel like you're the size of an action figure when you're looking at Klaus' sculpture. Not all of it. I mean, he does some amazing sketches and other studies, but for the majority, that's sort of what he became known for. But he also did this one thing back in the 60s. He was, I guess a lot of people call him a pop artist sculptor. And he did some happenings and various events that I learned about at a young age that I thought were cool, where he made a fast food, or it's almost like a bodega, but it was all hand sculpted objects made from cloth and paint, and you could go in there, and it was an actual working shop where you could go in there and buy a hamburger or a sandwich or lettuce or tomatoes. There was just these objects that were painted in a raw, crude kind of sense, but if you stood back, it just looked like almost like a impressionistic painting of a bodega. It was just really cool. And I don't know, just maybe start paying attention to sculpture and artist, and at a young age. I was really blown away by that. But I also loved how fun it all was. And I guess you could say it was part of the inspiration for what went into the Traveling Man sculptures here in Deep Ellum.
You got 10 minutes.
All right, T-minus 10 minutes, and then we're done with this guy. And you know, one thing that I love about like sculpt sketches is just how, of course, how raw they are, but then when you step back at and you look at them, it's almost in some ways they're better than the finished, cleaned up form. So I'm somehow, in a way, tempted not to take this too much further, because there's something really beautiful about how kind of lumpy and raw he is.
Great texture quality.
Yeah.
Lambert says, where can I get the Crowboy jacket and hoodie?
That's a good question. I think that's something we should look into. Maybe we can make a partnership deal with somebody, like Burberry. Wouldn't it be cool if Burberry made the Crowboy coat? Be a little pricey though, but it would still be awesome. Be worth it. It'd be very well made. Has a rich history. And of course the hoodie. We got to do that. The hoodie's like a sort of a combo. I think he's wearing 3 layers. He's got a striped shirt, a hoodie, and then he's got the trench coat over the top. We were talking about coats this morning. We were in an elevator, Limber and I, this morning, with 2 residencies. I guess you call them like understudies, or I don't know the proper medical word for it. But they had their white coats. But I don't know if you knew this, but like if you have a short white coat, you're not a doctor just yet.
That, no.
Only the doctors are allowed to have the long white coats.
Okay.
So if you're somewhat questioning the medical decisions of a doctor, make sure you look at the length of their coat.
Lambert says, Crow's coat is a short coat. He's still learning.
He is definitely still learning. I should be wearing a short coat too. All right, I'm gonna do the eyes now. Like I was saying earlier, if you guys tuned in or not, I sculpted some puppets, but like 2 blocks from here, which used to be the Dallas Puppet Theater Company, and I had a summertime job where I was making marionettes, and I learned from my boss, Pax, who ran the theater company, that when you make a marionette and when you paint them, you do the eyes last. It's very important because that's the soul of the puppet. And here, the soul of this sculpt will be Crowboy's eyes, and it's kind of a fun technique, and it's pretty simple to do when you make eyes on any sort of sculpted characters. To do the balls first. You make 2 balls, and you want to make sure they're the right size. You have to keep in mind that they get squished and they get bigger. So Crowboy's eyes. And now I'm going to smoosh them into his head. I'm going to look at him straight on, and then I'm going to expect them to get a little bigger. The eyes are very important in our story manifest. You actually have to look into them. Some people say when you look into the eyes of a person, you see their soul. You certainly get more information about the characters when you do this in the game or story or whatever you want to call Manifest 99, because it's kind of a combo. But yeah, some of the characters are a little trickier to look into the eyes of than others. And when you're successful, it takes you to another place, and it gives you more backstory and understanding into why that character's on the train with you, and why you're there. looking at my head now. I'm going to step back and realizing my hoodie could use a little more sag and clothy kind of qualities, wrinkles and bulges.
5-minute warning.
Oh my gosh, we're almost done. It went by so fast. I'm sure it was terribly slow for all of you out there watching. But for me, it went way too fast. Need to add one more layer to his hoodie so we get that overlap.
That collar.
Yeah. Thanks. It's funny, there's a little foil poking out right now on the little crow on his shoulder, right around the mouth, and it looks like the little crow has a grill. Shiny teeth.
D. Oldenburg says Crowboy needs to be across the street from Traveling Man.
Yeah, he does. I believe that's my brother, Daryl, tuning in.
That makes sense.
You cannot go any day down here without seeing somebody taking a picture by the Traveling Man.
All right, I gotta say something about that. That was the whole goal. The whole goal of the Traveling Man Sculpture series was so that people would take their pictures with it. So that would become like a location that you would want to get out of your car and climb on. And that was so rewarding. The first day we unveiled it, we took the DART had organized this sort of train ride from Fair Park to that station, and when we started to pull the train up, there were already people. There was a person getting their wedding photography done on the seated Traveling Man playing the guitar. We're like, yes,
That's awesome.
that's exactly what we want. And then there was another big loftier goal, which is silly, I know, but you know, there are two religions in the state of Texas. One is, you know, various religions, actual religion, and then the other is football. And a goal was for Traveling Man to end up on a going to commercial break on Monday Night Football. I actually said that because I remember Las Colinas horses during the commercial breaks, or I remember the what do you call that thing? It's not a Phoenix, is it? It's a Pegasus. That used to be the mobile Pegasus. It was always on at the commercial break. You'd have like a logo like Geico over the top of it, and sure enough, there was a Geico logo over the top of Traveling Man going to commercial break during the Monday Night Football this past year, which was, for Brad, Oldham, and everybody who worked on it, it was very rewarding to kind of see that happen.
That's huge, definitely.
Yeah, it's fun. You know that it's become like a landmark, and it's people like it. It's always nice when people like what you make.
Lambert says that Crowboy's statue should be on the DART platform human scale.
Yes, genius idea.
Just waiting
It's a
for
train,
the
waiting on the
train,
train.
yeah.
Absolutely, it's a great idea. We got to do that. All right, we'll talk to Dart, see if we can make that happen. Or we can just do what they did recently with Wall Street with the bull and just sort of just punk and just drop a sculpture there without telling anybody. Like the girl, that's probably going to end up being a permanent picture there.
2 minutes?
T-minus 2 minutes. I'm just trying to get enough girth in the hoodie so it actually looks like he's got a head underneath there.
Isn't that the little girl with the bull? That's the best kind of art. The art that moves you to.
Yeah.
It's going to stay because it's so moving and
Yeah.
powerful.
I hope so. Looks like he's got a tumor on his neck right now. I'm trying to get that removed.
Your brother said, ask him about the Croatians.
Oh yeah. All right. So Glengo King is his name. He's a puppeteer that lives in Harlem, and I got to know him at the Unima Puppetry Festival in 1993. I was fortunate enough to have a scholarship to go there and attend, and sat in on some classes. And there was one class I got to sit in on that was taught by Frank Oz, And Glenn Goking was also in there. He was one of the teachers. He worked on When the Muppets Take Manhattan and other Muppet films. But he and his fellow Croatian puppeteers have their own thing that they do, and they've been seen in several movies. I believe they're in the opening sequence of the movie Ransom that Mel Gibson's in. I think Ron Howard directed it. And the Croatians are in the park, you know, doing their thing, and they don't hide behind curtains or anything. It's just a guy with his crow puppet, and they perform songs. They're amazing puppeteers. But yeah, the Croatians, forgot about them.
Our time is up.
Awesome. All right, so we're done, folks. Let's just do one little, I guess I'll do a little rotation of our character. That was fun. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I know that sounded contrived, but it's true. It was a blast. This is a break from regular work. So here we are. Crow Boy, I'll stand out of the way and we'll just enjoy a rotation of him. I'll clean this out here. Okay. So, yeah, check him out.
Yeah, the texture quality on clay, especially in that jacket in front.
A little bit too much.
Great.
Come back a little bit, Crow Boy. About to fall over. There we go. I think we should just do this with this music all day long. Just rotating to this track all day long. Well, that was fun. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And I gotta say something. These are the closing remarks. So yes, of course, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back very soon with another live stream. So don't forget to subscribe so you can get notified when we're back, okay? We don't know exactly when, but hopefully we stay relatively consistent. There's a button on your screen right now, so just click it to subscribe, please, if you like it, of course. And in the meantime, make sure to check out our blog at blog.flightschool.studio. There's some character development artwork there for our first project, which is, you know, Manifest 99, and this is our main character, Crow Boy. Also, don't forget, we're hiring a designer and a game designer right now. The job descriptions are on our blog as well. Please check it out, and maybe we'll be interviewing you in the coming days. You never know. All right, thanks everybody. Bye.